I want to talk about the books every preacher should read. Faithful preachers are diligent readers, period. You can't be a good preacher and be unwilling to read. But in that, if you are a beginning preacher, or you're just beginning to take the matters of Bible exposition seriously, what are the books you ought to read? And I want to list 7, briefly and quickly, 7 books on preaching that every preacher ought to read. Let me begin, number 1, with Biblical Preaching by Haddon Robinson. This is the textbook on Bible exposition or expository preaching. Many seminaries, Bible colleges around the country use this as a formal text to train preachers. And yet at the same time, it's very clear, practical, and readable. It's also written by a master preacher and communicator. Secondly, and for me, this is second in priority, I would recommend Christ-Centered Preaching by Bryan Chapell. This is one of my favorite books on preaching. It discusses the principles for expository preaching and preparation of expository sermons and a theology of the Christ-centered message. Thirdly, I would recommend that you read Between Two Worlds by John R.W. Stott. It is about the art of preaching in the 20th century. We're now in the 21st century, but it is still a relevant book for Christian preaching. And let me footnote that by saying anything on preaching written by Warren Wiersbe, buy it and read it. But concerning Between Two Worlds, Wiersbe wrote, "If a man will put into practice the principles explained in this volume, he cannot but help become a better preacher." I agree. Thirdly, Preaching and Preachers by D. Martin Lloyd-Jones, who ministered at the Westminster Chapel in London for more than 30 years and is considered to be one of the greatest preachers of the 20th century. This book is very similar to Between Two Worlds in that it is an older classic book that every preacher should read. Number 5, Anointed Expository Preaching by Stephen F. Olford and his son David L. Olford. The late Dr. Stephen Olford was a great expository preacher, and he trained many preachers through the Olford Institute in Memphis. This book is a full presentation of his philosophy of preaching, and it's unique in that it models what Olford teaches in the various chapters of the book. That is, he talks about exposition by doing exposition of several passages. Number 6, Power in the Pulpit by Jerry Vines and Jim Shaddix. Dr. Jerry Vines, who pastored First Baptist Church in Jacksonville for many years down the street from where I currently serve, is one of the great expository preachers of our time, and he lays out here both the process of sermon preparation and sermon delivery. You'll benefit from it. And then number 7, Rediscovering Expository Preaching. It has been republished simply under the title Preaching by John F. MacArthur and the Masters Seminary faculty. It is a textbook length treatment of the subject of expository preaching. And one of its features is that it has an overview of John MacArthur's own study process. Dr. John MacArthur is the Martin Lloyd-Jones of this generation. He is the most respected Bible expositor of our day. And to read how he gets from text to sermon is a great encouragement, challenge, and benefit. So there it is. These are the 7 books I recommend every preacher reads on preaching. For free, I'll give you a bonus recommendation. You should read Doctrine That Dances by Robert Smith Jr. This book marries the importance of doctrinal preaching and spiritual passion. Doctrine should not be dead in the pulpit. Doctrine should come alive in our preaching. It should dance in our preaching. And Dr. Smith explains that well in this wonderful book, Doctrine That Dances. I hope this list will be a benefit to you. Pick these books up, read them, share with me what benefit you received from these books.